What if I told you that one of the greatest and most devastating wars in history was triggered not by a grand political decision or a battle of ideologies, but by a simple wrong turn? Could something as small as a navigation mistake really send the entire world spiraling into chaos? Let's travel back to 1914 and find out just how one fateful decision would change the world forever. Setting the scene. The powder keg of Europe. It was the summer of 1914. Europe was a powder keg of tensions, political rivalries, alliances, and nationalist movements were all bubbling beneath the surface, just waiting for a spark to ignite the continent into war. But few could have predicted how fragile peace truly was. At the heart of the growing unrest was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. For years, the empire had struggled to maintain control over its many ethnic groups, and none were more discontented than the Slavic peoples in the Balkans. Serbia, a small but fiercely independent nation, dreamed of a united Slavic state, free from Austro-Hungarian rule. This rising tide of nationalism would play a crucial role in the coming conflict. Introducing the players. Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Enter Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Franz Ferdinand was seen as a moderate. He advocated for a more federated empire, hoping to quell the growing discontent by giving ethnic groups more autonomy. Cut to footage of Franz Ferdinand with his wife Sophie, waving to crowds, an image of a hopeful, peaceful future. But despite his moderate views, Franz Ferdinand was still a symbol of imperial power, and a target for radical nationalist groups like the Black Hand. The Black Hand. A deadly plot. The Black Hand was a secret Serbian nationalist organization, and its members were determined to end Austro-Hungarian influence in the Balkans by any means necessary. For them, Franz Ferdinand's planned visit to Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, was the perfect opportunity to strike. They believed that by assassinating the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, they could ignite a revolution and finally break free from imperial control. Among the plotters was a 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip, a passionate nationalist and member of the Black Hand. He, along with several others, would spend days preparing for the assassination, armed with guns and bombs, ready to make history. But none of them could have predicted how the day's events would actually unfold. June 28, 1914. The day begins. It was a beautiful morning in Sarajevo. Crowds lined the streets to catch a glimpse of the royal couple as they made their way through the city. Little did anyone know that this seemingly peaceful day would soon descend into chaos. On their way to the city hall, the Archduke's motorcade passed several key points where the assassins lay in wait. The first attacker, Nedeljko Kabrinovic, hurled a bomb at the car. Miraculously, Franz Ferdinand and his wife escaped unscathed. The first attempt had failed, but rather than flee the city, the Archduke made a decision that would seal his fate. The fateful decision: visiting the hospital. Despite the attempt on his life, the Archduke insisted on visiting the hospital to see the wounded from the earlier explosion. It was a gesture of compassion, but also one that would lead to catastrophe. The plan was to take a different route to avoid the crowds and any further assassination attempts. But there was confusion among the drivers, and as fate would have it, the driver of the Archduke's car took a wrong turn down Franz Joseph Street, the wrong turn that changed history. Gavrilo Princip had lost hope. After the failed attempt, he wandered the streets, thinking his chance was gone. But in one of the most extraordinary coincidences in history, Franz Ferdinand's car turned right down the very street where Princip was standing. At that moment, the car stalled. The Archduke and his wife were sitting just a few feet away from the young assassin. Without hesitation, Princip fired 2 shots. One bullet struck Franz Ferdinand, the other hit his wife Sophie. Both would die within minutes. Footage of the crowd screaming and rushing to the scene. The dominoes fall. The outbreak of World War I. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was the spark that set Europe ablaze. But how exactly did this one event lead to the outbreak of World War I? At the heart of the conflict were the complex alliances that had formed between the great powers of Europe. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for the assassination, and with the backing of Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia. Serbia, in turn, sought help from its ally, Russia. As tensions escalated, Germany declared war on Russia, and soon France and Britain were drawn into the conflict as well. Within weeks, the entire continent was at war. What had begun as a regional conflict between Austria-Hungary and Serbia quickly spiraled into a global conflict, as nations across the world were pulled into the fray. World War I would last for 4 long years. Over 16 million people would die in the conflict, soldiers and civilians alike. The war would reshape borders, topple empires, and set the stage for even greater conflicts to come. Aftermath. The world reordered. The end of World War I saw the collapse of empires. The Austro-Hungarian, German, Russian, and Ottoman empires all fell in the aftermath. New nations were born and old ones were restructured, but the seeds of future conflict had already been planted. The harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles, particularly toward Germany, would sow the discontent that led to the rise of Adolf Hitler and, ultimately, World War II. In a sense, the wrong turn in Sarajevo not only sparked the First World War but also set the stage for the Second. Reflection. Could it have been prevented? It's impossible to say what might have happened if Franz Ferdinand's driver hadn't taken that wrong turn, or if the assassination had failed altogether. But history is filled with moments like this, tiny, seemingly insignificant decisions that, when viewed in hindsight, changed the course of the world. Perhaps it was fate, or perhaps it was simply the weight of history pulling the world toward war. Either way, the wrong turn that day in Sarajevo would echo through time, affecting millions of lives and altering the course of the 20th century. Conclusion. A moment in time. History, they say, is shaped by the decisions of the powerful. But sometimes, it's the smallest of actions, a missed turn, a chance encounter, that ends up changing everything. And as we look back on that fateful day in 1914, we're reminded of just how fragile peace can be, and how easily the world can be thrown into chaos. Thanks for watching, and until next time.